Welcome to the Tattooed Truth Podcast with Anna Love, a space for embodied conversations for soul-led rebels. I'm your host, Anna Love, intuitive empowerment coach, subconscious healing guide, and no stranger to burning it all down to rise in truth. Here we dive deep into identity, healing, personal power, and what it really takes to lead a soul-aligned life. You'll hear unfiltered insights, real stories, and live coaching sessions with bold callers ready to break free and embody their next level. This is your invitation to reclaim your voice, rewire your patterns, and rise fully expressed. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Tattooed Truth Podcast. All right, I'm very excited to have my special guest here, Sadie Kolves, and I'm going to allow her to introduce herself because she is such a badass. I discovered Sadie on Instagram or Facebook, one of those outlets, and I was immediately drawn to her because she's just bright, vibrant, doing all the things that I find admirable in women these days, right? Speaking her truth, advocating for other women, being a leader, showing up authentically. And I was like, I need to know all I can know about this woman. Bought her book, read it in a week, obsessed with you. So tell us a little bit about you and what our listeners should know.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. I love pouring into other people and helping people feel empowered. So hopefully you guys will get some value from my story. So I'll give my little elevator speech. I feel like anytime I do a training, I've got to set the stage of who I am, because a lot of times you see where somebody is now and not really the story of how they got there. So I live in Gulf Breeze, Florida, but I'm originally from a little town in Illinois, about 35 minutes outside of St. Louis, Missouri. The town's called New Baden, Illinois, and it has one four-way stop. It was so small that 3 towns went to one high school, and I think we still only had 60 students that were graduating. So it was very small. I have an identical twin sister, and I was raised by my dad. So it was my dad, my twin sister. I have an older sister and a brother. And my mom left us with our father when we were 7. And she was young. She had 4 kids by 20, and she wanted to go live her life. And during that time, so we have hereditary kidney disease called Alport's. And during that time, my dad was actually going through kidney failure. He was in his early 30s, and she had left him with all 4 kids. He tried to give her custody. She didn't want custody, and she left him in debt, and he was bitter and broken. Let's be honest, he was bitter and broken. And at that age, we didn't know what we didn't know. We were just trying to get through the day. They were fighting all the time anyway before she had left. But his kidneys failed when I was 8. He started dialysis, but when I was 9 years old, he got a kidney transplant. And during that time, he had to stay away from the house because we had pets. And when you have transplants, you can't be around that type of stuff. And we literally lived in that home by ourselves for an entire summer. My mom was supposed to come and check on us, but she didn't. And by the time my dad realized nobody was there with us, because, back in 89, there wasn't cell phones or anything like that. Looking back now as an adult, I'm like, neighbors knew what was going on, but they didn't call or say anything. But by the time my dad got back, he had taken us to his sister's house to get cleaned up, and our scalps were green. I remember not eating. My neighbor snuck us over to her house, and she got us instant mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese. And I remember these beef bouillons. And so I couldn't even tell you I know we didn't eat every day. So I don't really, we didn't have AC. So we had holes in the screens. And of course we were on welfare because my dad wasn't working because he had to go to dialysis. And you couldn't work a full-time job when you're dialyzing 3 days a week. So honestly, we were just trying to get through the day. I love my dad, and I want to make that very clear. I would not be where I'm at without him, but he was very verbally abusive. He was bitter and broken, and he told us we were worthless. We weren't going to amount to anything. You're going to be just like your mom or whatever it was. And my twin sister got pregnant at 14, had a baby at 15. I turned to drugs and alcohol to escape my reality. And at the age of 16, I moved in with a drug dealer, and I was doing a lot of, can I be very transparent?
Please.
I was doing a lot of cocaine and crystal meth at the time. And I couldn't tell you how long I was doing it, but I was down to 80 pounds. And one day I was a passenger in a car, and my whole body went paralyzed. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I had been up for 3 days. So I don't know if it was like an overdose, withdrawal symptoms. I'm not really sure, but the guy driving the car, which was my boyfriend, wouldn't take me anywhere. He said, "You can go to the apartment and sleep it off. You're gonna be fine." And I woke up that next day and I was like, "You know what? Like, I'm better than this. I'm not gonna live my life this way." And I packed up everything and I went back to my dad's. I had dropped out of high school at 16 and I went and got a full-time job and started working full time. And I remember my dad saying, "You know what? The only way you're gonna have that pretty house and nice car is if you get lucky or marry rich because we don't come from money. So like you can be a secretary." My sisters were secretaries. College really wasn't talked about. And at the age of 19, I was working at Walmart and I met my first husband, and meeting his family was the first experience that I realized not everybody lives the way that I lived, because everybody says, "Oh, do you feel sorry for yourself?" And I was like, "No, because you don't know another life outside of what you're living. That's your normal." So, but that was the first time that I realized, oh my gosh, like there's parents out there that cheer their kids on and tell them that they can do amazing things. And it was weird to me. I was like, that's incredible. So that was when my mind started shifting a little to where I was like, whoa, not everybody lives that life.
Mhm.
And I got married at 20 and got a job at a cancer treatment center. I worked my way up because I didn't have an education. And then I started working at a cancer treatment center. And I would say that at that moment, life was good. Life was good. I was making a whopping 35,000 a
Right.
year.
Right.
And he had worked for the railroad and he was military for a few years, but I had my daughter 6 years later. Like I was married for 6 years, had my daughter, thought I did it right. We were paying our bills, but he was putting us into credit card debt. I would say that on the outside, it looked like everything was great, but he was putting us into credit card debt and not paying that off. And then once my daughter was about 6 months old, he went to crap and started having affairs. I lost my home to foreclosure. My car was repossessed out of my driveway and I lost my dad. My dad passed away. And so for, 7 years, life was pretty good. We were living the mediocre life, getting by, living a little bit on some credit cards. And then everything just fell apart. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like I don't know what I'm going to do. Like he filed bankruptcy and got totally liquidated from all the debt. So it all fell on me. When I lost the home, my dad was kind enough to put his home up for collateral before he passed to buy a $50,000 home that me and my daughter could live in. And honestly, for 3 years, I just focused on my health, my wellness, nutrition, my mediocre job, and my daughter being a mom. Like I
And
just wanted to be a
you're
mom at
holding,
that time.
and this is you like 28, something like that?
28, you nailed it.
Yeah.
I was 28 years old when I lost my dad and when everything just fell apart. I was
Yeah.
28 years old and I lived like that for a few years but during that time, I started developing, I knew what I didn't want. You know what I mean? Like, even though I wasn't making money and I was living paycheck to paycheck and life wasn't what I would call great, but I settled, like I was content with where I
Yeah.
was. And I just wanted to be the best mom. I wanted to be the mom that I didn't have. So my
Yeah.
number one priority was my daughter, period, end of story. I didn't care if I dated. None of that mattered to me at that time.
You were
Um,
succeeding. You were succeeding in the one thing that you said, "I'm gonna be really good at this." And then you
mhm,
were doing that.
yeah. And then I met my now husband. We've been married over 11 years now, but we met at the gym doing what I always tell people, like, if you go do the things that you enjoy in life, you'll meet your person.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like if you're doing so I started working out a lot and I met him and we dated for a few years before we got married. But what happened was I remember sitting in that office. I worked at that cancer center for over a decade. And I remember I had some really bipolar bosses. I dealt with some sexual harassment from
Mhm.
a radiation oncologist who went, or not a radiation oncologist, he was the manager and he went to be interim and he threatened my job. And there's a whole long story. That's a whole nother podcast. But I was just like, you know what? This is this really life? Am I really going to walk into this building Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and work my life away for somebody else making $35,000 a year? Like, I've got lawn that needs mowed. I've got a
Yeah.
house that needs cleaned. Like, I want to go to my daughter's soccer game and go read in her library. Like, what am I doing? So then
Yeah.
I started dabbling with an MLM company, didn't even really know what it was at the time. And I sacrificed. I put everything I had that whole year into building this business that I think I made like $22,000 in a year and a half from that business. And I poured more of my heart into it than I didn't. But I made enough monthly to quit my full-time job. Like once I started making like 2,000 a month, I was like, I'm out. Like I'm out. I'm
Okay.
quitting my job. I'm going to pour everything I have into this. And it was short-lived. and it fell apart. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a poor, happy military wife. I'm going to work on nutrition. I can teach people meal plans, how to work out. I loved
Mm,
it. I competed in bodybuilding and ran some marathons. And we moved all the way from St. Louis to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I found my business that I have today that I've done for 8 years, and it changed my entire life. Like I built, multiple seven figures with this business in 8 years, and I lead a really large team. I've published 2 books. I have my podcast, Anything is Possible podcast, but there's a lot of story in that 8 years. But to
yeah.
just cut it short, I plugged into personal development. I got real serious about who I wanted to
Right.
be.
Yep.
And I made myself a priority in my family, and I put my head down and I worked really, really hard. And I love empowering and mentoring other women. So that's really what it all grew from: trauma,
Yep.
hardships. I
Yep.
went through phases where I blamed everybody for my problems,
Of course.
and then I had to take responsibility for where I'm at today. It's not my parents' job to make me successful as an adult, like, regardless of the upbringing. Like, you want
Right.
a life, nobody's coming to save you. Figure it
Right.
out.
Nobody's coming.
Nobody's coming to save you. Figure it out. And
Wow.
yeah, I mean,
What
you
does
figure
that
it
mean?
out.
Like, listen, I know what you mean by figure it out, but for the listener who may be listening, who doesn't know or what that even means, or who's sitting in their life and they're going, I don't know how to get out. I don't know, like, what's even the first step? I mean, what does that mean, figure it out? You named 3 things, but I want to hear what you said to that.
So if I was talking to, say, just somebody asking me, hey, like, here's where I'm at in my life. I want it to look different. What's my first step? I
Mhm.
would say your first step is, one, look at the circle of people you're surrounded with. So important, because if they're draining you, if they're not a faucet and they're a drain, like,
Mhm.
if you're surrounded by a bunch of drains, you need to slowly transition the group of people you're around. And how to do that is, think of the life you want to live. Where do
Mhm.
you want your life? What do you want it to look like? You need to start surrounding yourself with people that are living that life,
That's
because
right.
you're gonna be able to just suck that energy, and it's gonna help you grow. Two is plug into personal development.
Yep.
Making sure that you're in some sort of personal development. I know you and I had talked before about Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins was my first book that I read. What was it again?
Unleash or awaken the giant.
Awaken the Giant. And that started to change my life. And then I listened to You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. It's an oldie, but a goodie. Back when I read it, it wasn't an oldie. And I started, and affirmations, they're powerful. And sometimes in the beginning, people think, oh gosh, I'm not going to tell myself that I'm amazing and that I can do this, and write some stuff in lipstick on your mirror in the bathroom or whatever it looks like. But oh my God, do it. Because as soon as you start doing it, as soon as you read 2 sentences in a self-development book, your whole mood shifts. Like, I remember my twin sister saying, Sadie, that's dumb. I don't want to hear it. I was like, trust me. Please trust me. Open the book,
Yeah.
read a paragraph. Everything will start to change. I promise you. And it does. It's very
Did it for her?
impactful.
I was saying, how did it work out for her?
Yeah, so she argued with me about it one day. I said, "You are so negative right now, Sarah. Like, I don't even want to talk to you. Like, your energy is just like draining me." And this was just a month ago, everybody. Like, this was just a month ago, because she had never done a business before. So she's been working corporate, and she just started working a side business, and it takes a toll. It's a lot of mental work. And her energy was just like exhausting me. And I said, "Sarah, I need you to download a couple books." I said, "I need you to," and she's like, "This is stupid." I'm like, "Trust me." So I said, "Okay, for a newbie, the Let Them Theory, Mel Robbins, is really good for a newbie."
Right.
So I had her plug into that, and she literally said, "You know what? Oh my God, I already feel better." And she finished the book, and she just downloaded another book called The Magic by Rhonda Byrne.
Yeah.
And so she just downloaded that book, because that's one that if ever I start to get in a funk and I feel, I'm struggling with gratitude,
Yep.
I replug into that, because you cannot be miserable when you're grateful. And
Right.
that's a powerful thing. Like, if you're grateful, you can't be unhappy.
Yep. You
And the more
can't.
gratitude, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You can't do 2 things at the same time like that. You can't be
No.
in gratitude and then miserable or talking negativity. Now, you just touched on 2 different things: mindset, right? With the let them, because that's switching your mindset. And then you touched on in energetics, or the laws of the universe, the God, right? Source. What would be your, because I always think it comes in threes with the somatic. So our traumas get stuck in our body. And we can do all the mindset in the world, but the trauma is still stuck in the body. And I believe we need all 3. I believe we need to know that we have a frequency that we're putting out, and that energy. You were like, stop with this, get away from me with that. I'm creating some space and I'm putting up some boundaries. Most people cannot even say that, especially to their sibling. But what would you say for the listeners about any tips on, the somatics and trauma being stored in the body and what you would do to release that?
That's hard because that's a personal growth, you know what I mean? Because people will ask that all the time, like, "How did you overcome that?" And I would say that it's almost like phases. You know what I mean? Like, there's a phase I mean, I've gone through a phase of where I would say to where you just come to terms to where you forgive. Like, forgiveness is really important. That's a really important part to overcome trauma.
Yeah.
Forgiveness does not mean forget. And I think that a lot of people think that they can't forgive because I'll never forget this. Well, of course you'll never forget this. I mean, it was trauma that
Right.
molded you into the person that you are today. But I also believe this theory too is that in order to be grateful for the good in your life, you also have to be grateful for the bad. And that's a
Mhm.
hard pill to swallow. Especially because, I mean, I've gone through sexual assault. I've had really traumatic things in my life happen. I would say that I'm grateful for the experience to be able to be the person that I am today. I mean, doesn't mean that I would pray that that would ever happen to anybody else,
Right.
but I had to come to terms to where, like, I thought I had forgiven my mom, but I hadn't. So it's
Yeah.
almost like, struggling through that healing process and
Yeah.
truly feeling it with your heart and soul that, you know
Yeah.
what? No, I love you. I love you despite of, and I know that this is your first time living life too. And you were going through some hardships too to try to be understanding. It doesn't mean that that's okay, but it means I forgive you and I love you despite of. Doesn't mean that our relationship's going to be like best friends, but I'm okay. You know what I mean? And I think in order to heal, you truly have to come to terms with that or else it controls you.
That's right. That's what I was going to say is you're hitting the nail on the head. Forgiveness has a frequency too. And when we're walking around harboring anger about something that happened to us and there's blame and we haven't forgiven, then it's like I always say it's like holding a hot coal in our hands, right? And we're just like burning a piece of our soul out for every moment that we're holding that hot coal. And it's forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about breathing the hot coal, right? Like how much better are you going to feel when your fucking hands aren't burning, right? Or
No,
your
I mean,
heart isn't burning.
like when you're holding on to that, you're the one losing sleep at night. You're the one that's being tortured. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and and I understand that it goes through phases to where you want to forgive, but you still can't. And that's healing. That's a
Right.
that's a part of the healing process. And I always want people to know don't beat yourself up if you haven't gotten there yet. Because we do I've tried to rush it. I mean, I've tried to rush it because I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't want to feel this hate. I don't want to be angry at her. I don't want to hold a grudge. I want to love her. And I truly do love her. Like I love her and I want her to just be happy and healthy and all the things. And I know she loves me too. It's just different. And acceptance is really hard because
Yeah.
you have to accept that that person will never be the person that you created in your mind. That's hard
Wow.
because
That's a
think
big
of
one.
how you want your mom to be. My mom will
Mhm.
never be the mom that I dreamt. You know what I mean? Like never.
Yeah.
And she can't be. It just, you
Yeah.
have to accept that. So what I've done is I've just
Yeah.
become the mom that I wanted and needed as that little girl. So I've become
That's
the
right.
person that would have healed me as a child. So that's
And
just
that's
how
the
I
way.
was able to channel it.
You found the secret, right? And Tony Robbins also says change your expectations for acceptance and all your the problem goes away. So I love that. And a lot of people have these expectations of like, well, you're my mom, you should do this or I needed this. And we can't control other people. And here's a big question that's coming up for me. So like look, there's 8 million people in this world. Or I said 8 million. There's 8 billion people in this world, and we're all going through shit. Many, many, many high percentage of those people aren't going to be doing anything about it. They're just going to go through their lives miserable or mediocre because they believe that there's no other way. They believe that this is just the way this is. This is just the way I am, right? What made you different? What makes you different? Because you're not of that percentage. You're a different percentage of the people who are out there making moves in the growth mindset, taking off, making money, doing great things in the world as a role model. What makes you different?
I feel like that's the magic question.
I know.
Like I mean, I'll try to answer that the best of my ability, but man, I mean, because
Look,
it's great.
you've made it. All right. Let me reframe it a different way. Let me see if I can reframe it so it's not so heavy. You've done the inner work. You've made a difference in your life, in your daughter's life, in many, many, many other people's lives. Okay. And there's something about your journey because you had a hard journey, a very difficult journey, a very trying journey. And the statistics would show that you wouldn't be able to get out from under that. And
Mhm.
very much like I feel like I see me and you. And I don't know if you feel that about me, but my story wasn't like yours, but it was very bad also.
Right.
And there was something that shifted in me at some point. There was something that said, I'm not fucking playing this victim game anymore.
Yeah.
And I can't go one more minute. And for me, that was my leverage. Like I literally can't do this anymore. And I lost family members in the leaving of the negativity behind.
Mhm.
There's people that won't speak to me. My own sister, I'll just say it out loud right here. Fuck it. She won't speak to me because, the bond that we created was through the negativity. And when I left that, she felt abandoned or whatever, but I had to choose me.
Yep. Boundaries. That's a boundary there. So I will tell you that thank you for explaining that because it let me kind of like look at it
Yeah.
from that vision. Cause I was just like, oh my gosh, they're like, cause I'm like, God, you can't teach work ethic. But I would say that there was a moment in my life, like that one moment. I remember the moment to where I said, I won't live this way anymore. And I think I was probably 18 or 19 years old to where I was so effing tired of being a pity party, like, feel sorry for me, like, why me? I was over it. I did not want to be that person. I wanted to get out of that small town. I wanted to be somebody. I didn't and to be honest with you, I don't even think that I knew where this path would take me. But
Mhm.
I knew for a fact that I didn't wanna be like that. And I knew that I'm worth something, and I knew that I had really good work ethic, and I knew that if I put my mind to anything, that I could do anything. And there just came a point to where I was just like, "I'm not living this way anymore."
Yeah.
And that was the moment to where I didn't wanna be like my dad, I didn't wanna be like my mom, I didn't want all my siblings had kids and were divorced, and people were drinking, and I'm like I think, honestly, I think really getting focused into fitness and nutrition also was the
Mhm.
shift for me because it takes discipline, and
Yeah.
when you're disciplined, I feel like it's a more powerful work ethic. And
Thank you.
fitness and nutrition takes discipline.
Yeah.
And when you're in the gym, you're focused, you're in tuned with your body. I feel like your mind shifts. The people that you hang out with is a lot different than the people that are hanging out at the bars and doing all those things too. That's a whole thing too. It's the circle that you're around. Like, you do not want to be the smartest person in the room.
Right.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you have nowhere to grow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So as you're growing and developing, that's one thing that I did really good at. Like, I was able to change rooms. And you know what though? Also, don't feel bad about switching your friend crowd.
Right.
I feel like everybody's here for a season. You're not using people, but you grow out of. And some
Yep.
people grow with you and some people don't. And that's a thing too. But I think that I was just tired of my own bullshit, Anna. Like, I was just over my own bullshit. And
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have to live like this. I don't want to live like this.
It's a
And I'm
choice.
not going to blame my family for where I'm at today. I'm going to go create a life that I'm proud of. And I think makes me emotional, but I think my daughter,
Mhm.
my daughter was probably like the point to where I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want her to live how I lived.
Yep. Yeah. So we
So,
need leverage, right? In order to make a move, we either need to go towards the pleasure or we need to run from the pain.
mhm.
And you were doing both, right? You were running from the pain of like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is not how I'm doing it for my daughter. But then you made a freaking conscious decision to get in different rooms, different circles, leave some friendships, get very disciplined. And, you even, and here's something I heard in there too. You believed that you were worth something. And that's,
Mhm.
I think, like we are all worth something. We're born with worthiness. Okay. But it's stripped from us as a kid. Somehow you hung on to that. And that was like the fire for you, is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would lie if I told you that there's never, a period of self-doubt, to where you're like, gosh, like don't forget where you came from. Like, there's moments where you're like people will try to drag you back down where you came from and you
Yeah.
have to tell yourself, no, like there's a reason I'm here today. God led me to this. And I can impact people's lives. I can help people. And the more people you surround yourself with, the more you realize how many people struggle with limiting beliefs. Like we wear these labels that society has put on our backs that aren't even freaking real. Like it's not real. Like my dad telling me you're worthless. That's a fucking label that was put on me that wasn't even a real label. Like how dare you talk to me like that. And that's one thing that I promise I would never do as a mom is I would never belittle because listen, I'd rather have my ass beat than talk down like, you're a worthless piece of shit because it literally just tears away everything as you're growing up into life and life's hard as it is. I mean, think about it. You go through that kind of trauma as a child, you have to build yourself back. And then you have to build on top of that to build stronger.
That's
And,
right.
there's people that as in your adult life, I'm sure you know this, that will try to like make you feel like that again. And you
Yeah.
have to remind yourself who the fuck you are.
They're projecting their shit, right? So
Their own shit.
their dad was feeling some sort of way about his worthiness and unworthiness, and he put it on you. And
Mhm.
that's what I'm saying is most people can't see past, their asshole. They don't know.
But family,
Yeah.
you're right though. Like I even cut out family and it wasn't even and some grew with me and some didn't. Like my twin sister is back in my she's grown. It's really cool to see because she had that small town mindset, but I've seen her do a little bit better throughout the years, but some haven't, and I love them and I still talk to them. It's just not as often.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause there's the commonalities aren't there anymore.
Right.
So yeah, I just admire you so much. I admired you before this call and just more so in learning more about you. And like I said, I read your book and you've got 2 books out there. Why is it important that people know who you are and read your books? Because I want everyone to know you.
Oh, I appreciate it. And I just mailed you the companion journal too. So you should be getting that. So that's been mailed. But my book, I love my book. It's that year that I wrote that book, I had to peel back layers and build on a wall. And I'll tell you, it's very hard. I didn't talk to a lot of family that whole year. And they're like, what happened to you? When you write a book, you got to get real raw and you remember things that you literally blocked out and kind of forgot all about. Some things I didn't even add in the book. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot that even happened. And then I got kind of bitter for a minute. So this like writing a book and then dealing with trauma all over again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had to reheal, to be honest with you. I had to reheal after my book. And 2022 is when I rehealed because I published in 2020. So 2022 is when I did the Tony Robbins Date with Destiny and I forgave my mom all over again because I had to like go through it all over again.
Wow.
But honestly, my book, I feel like it's very impactful for honestly, it would fit into anybody's life. It doesn't matter if you're young, if you're a preteen, if you're a teenager, if you're a young adult or older. I feel like we all heal at different phases of our lives, but I share my personal story and the things and activities that I did to overcome and get through that and what I was able and the actions and steps I took to get to where I'm at today. I feel like storytelling is where people can relate and to work on bettering their lives and to start that healing process for themselves. But hopefully, my hope is that when you read that book is that you can relate to it and it empowers you that despite what your life was or where you came from, you're worthy, you're enough, and you can get through anything if you set a goal and put your mind to it. I promise you. It won't be easy, but you can do this.
And what's the name of your book?
Anything is possible.
All right. And where can people buy it or find it?
You can find the book. You can go to sadiekolves.com and you can purchase the book, and it is on Audible as well. So if you're an Audible person, you can download the Audible. And then you can also find it on Amazon. So the link on the website will take you straight to Amazon too, to where you can purchase that, the companion journal, or the Audible.
Beautiful. Now, is there any other place that you want to direct people to find you or discover, what it is that maybe you do or anything?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I have a podcast, Anything is Possible podcast that you can also find on my website, sadiekolves.com. You can also find me on Spotify or Apple or the podcast app. I'm literally everywhere. And Facebook, Sadie Kolves, Kolves. I'm very active on Facebook. That's where I do a lot of my stuff. You can also find me on Instagram, living life on, I think it's underscore my terms. But if you type in Sadie Kolves, you'll probably find me. I am on TikTok as well. Not as active on there, but I'm active enough. But Facebook and Instagram is where you want to find me.
You're all the places. This has been a pleasure. Is there anything else that you want to, leave us with, or do you feel complete?
I mean, I feel pretty good, but I would just say, make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that pour into you and pour belief into you. And no matter what happens in life, like you're capable of big things if you put your mind to it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Really appreciate
Thank
you coming
you.
on. Thanks for tuning in to the Tattooed Truth podcast. If this episode lit something up in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, leave a review, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a truth bomb. If you're craving deeper support, guided healing, or a space to reclaim your voice and power, check the show notes for ways to work with me. Remember, your truth is not too loud, too bold, or too much. It's exactly what this world needs. Keep showing up, stay wild, stay true. I'll see you next time.